You're listening to an N-Stars podcast production. I'm Adam Mock, a 40-something-year-old film critic who knows whiskey and movies.
And I'm Melanie Weir, a former theater major who loves Disney princesses and the color pink. Are you ready to start?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
Hey, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Made You Watch, a podcast starring me, Adam Mock, and my co-host,
Melanie Weir.
There you go. This show, basically, the rundown is, it's a multi-generational movie-watching show where, how old are you?
26. I had to think about that.
I'm 42. I'll be 43 in a month. I'm old. And poor Mel here has missed out on the slew of films that I have seen in my really depressingly long life. And today on the show, it's my turn to recommend a movie that she has not seen. And that movie is 1999's Mike Judge, directed, written, and starring, he has a role in the movie, Office Space. So, before you watch the movie, what do you think Office Space is about?
Well, I do want to preface this by saying that I have seen scenes from Office Space because it's a movie that my dad really liked. I mean, I heard him laughing at it like he really liked it, but I was not allowed to watch it. So I think I will also be very interested to see the reason why I was not allowed to watch this, why it would get turned off when I entered the room as a child. But it seems to me like Office Space is just about what happens when you work in an office in the 90s and don't care about the job you're doing at all and really just hate it.
Not far off the IMDb description, which is 3 company workers who hate their jobs decide to rebel against their greedy boss. Which I have a few reservations with that explanation, but because I think it goes a little deeper than that. But we are going to pause for a minute, watch the movie, and we'll be right back.
From Mike Judge, creator of Beavis and Butthead and co-creator of King of the Hill, comes a movie about people who go to work. Who are part of a team.
And remember, next Friday is Hawaiian Shirt Day.
Okay, but I could set the building on fire.
Who respect their boss.
We need to talk about your flair.
Well, I have 15 pieces on.
15 is the minimum. Brian, for example, has 37 pieces of flair on today. And a terrific smile.
And need to escape.
I don't like my job, and I don't think I'm gonna go anymore.
One of these days, I just kick this piece of...
I'm thinking now it might be more fun to just get fired. And I've always wondered what that would take.
I know you've been getting pretty depressed about your job and everything, and so I just wanted to tell you, good things can happen in this world. I mean, look at me.
Okay, we're back.
Nice.
So, what was it like, for me at least, revisiting this film? I hadn't seen it in a few years. And I think it is probably the most accurate portrayal of what office life was like in the late 90s. Just because I have so many friends who, I worked construction, so I didn't know. I was more like the guy who lives next door, Diedrich Bader's character. I was that guy with my friends. But in terms of my office folk friends, they all adore this film just for the reasons we're about to discuss. So now, what did you take away from this film?
I loved this movie. I loved it so much more than I thought I was going to love it. I thought it was just going to be, very depressing. And, it was, kind of. It's not depressing anymore just because, hey, we're years removed from the 90s, and office life isn't exactly this bad anymore. Thank you, work from home. We don't even need to talk about what's going on with office life right now.
The pandemic never existed.
The pandemic changed how I view... It's actually very interesting thinking about the fact that the first time I saw this movie was post-pandemic, because I think if I had watched it beforehand, I wouldn't have noticed how many very office-specific things were in it, because I had a very weird experiences with offices myself, where I graduated from college, I got exactly one office job, I was let go because, you know, you're a writer. You just kind of get let go, especially when you're technically labeled an intern. I was let go, and then about a month later, the pandemic hit. So I just so about half of my career, more so I would say, has been work from home. But this movie, aside from that, I loved because it seemed like so much of the proto basis for The Office, which is a show that I am deeply obsessed with, as you know. The stapler alone. You're going to forgive me because I've forgotten every character's name. Milton stapler. When he took his stapler and he was just kind of talking like this and he really liked my stapler back.
But then they switched from the swing line to the Boston stapler, but I kept my swing line stapler because it didn't bind up as much, and I kept the staples for the swing line stapler.
First, I also realized that my dad did that to make fun of us when we were mumbling all the time, and I thought he was just being funny. Half of my adult life is watching movies and realizing that my dad was just really good at impressions.
See, now you can join in on the jokes.
I also I remember the scenes that very clearly showed me why I was not allowed to watch this movie. We were chugging along. I was like, this is fine. I mean, there's some light cursing or whatever, but that never stopped my dad from showing me Lethal Weapon when I was in the room in like 10.
That's pretty awesome.
I think it was just really like, how much do I want to watch this versus how much do I not want my daughter to see this? Anyway.
What parts wouldn't you...
I think am I allowed to... I'm allowed to curse. We'll bleep. It's just... I remember very vividly being like between 8 and 10 years old, walking into the room and seeing Mel Gibson holding a gun, like pointing at the camera going, oh, you want to get fucking dead? I'm going to fuck your ass, man. And I was like, oh, that's a new word.
So what part of Office Space was even close to
all
this?
All of a sudden, well, it was very different. All of a sudden, we're just walking along, all of a sudden, titties. Just
Oh, the breast exam?
Yes, I was like, oh, okay. This is why my dad turned this off. Because the thing is, he only turns it off when it's going to make him uncomfortable, which is nudity scenes, not scenes with cursing. I should have seen that coming.
Hey, Peter, man, turn on Channel 9. The breast exam's on. That is one of the best lines, besides Case of the Mondays.
Case of the Mondays.
Case of the Mondays.
Uh-oh. Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mondays.
I do believe you get your ass kicked for saying something like that, man.
The Jim sensibilities of this main character where he's just like, Case of the Mondays. Really? It was like this movie was done about 10 years before everybody else was done.
Yeah. Now, do you remember Y2K? Like...
No, I was
whole thing behind it.
5. I was born in 1995.
I'm bad with math. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, no. I say it because like people ask me that, and I'm like, no, and I desperately want to know what was going on because it sounds like we lived a conspiracy theory, and I'm so mad that I just missed out on it just by virtue of being a toddler.
That's all right. Y2K was supposed to basically like shut the world down. And people were terrified. It was just numbers. It wasn't that big a deal.
I know the basics of it. Like, it was a big deal when we found it out because they were like, oh, we didn't have foresight. And the way we program these numbers in the system is going to ruin things like medical records, which is a problem. But then, like, as soon as they realized what it was, they were already working on fixing it. But because it sounded like such a big deal, like, the news picked it up and sensationalized it.
But what a great plot line to use. Because that is the most 1999-ass thing in this movie, besides the clothes.
It did,
because some of those earth tones
were
rocking.
And chunky ties. God, what was office fashion in the 90s? It was absolutely terrible.
It was.
Just nobody looks good in that.
Just watch Friends. We dressed like garbage. We really did. We dressed like complete trash.
I always actually really liked the way Chandler dressed in the early seasons. And I know people made fun of the way he dressed, but I was like, he looks kind of cool. I don't know why.
Now, the way this movie came about actually is interesting. You brought up Milton. That was an old SNL cartoon that Mike Judge had worked on, where Milton was the main character. He played him, and he literally just talked like this all the time for my stapler, or they took my notepad, or whatever. And he decided to build a movie around that. That's the genius of Mike Judge. He's the only guy in America that made the two stupidest characters ever invented, Beavis and Butthead, and made them icons. I mean, the guy can write stupid beautifully. And I think that's what I love about this film is, with the exception of Jennifer Aniston, there really aren't a lot of redeeming characters in this film. They're all kind of jerks.
Yeah.
But they're jerks because they've been driven to be jerks. Like, I mean, Ron Livingston, Peter, the fact that people forget, like, the reason he's doing all this, he's hypnotized. People forget, in the beginning of the movie, he gets hypnotized in order to enjoy his job. And the guy dies halfway through, has a heart attack, and doesn't complete the hypnosis.
It's so funny because I literally just watched this movie and I forgot that detail.
No one ever remembers that detail about the film. So this guy is literally just walking around like a zombie the whole movie, and it's hilarious because they just forget about it. The second he goes back to work, forget about it.
And it's just like, I think there's something to that. Like, we forget that he was hypnotized because somewhere deep down we're all like, yeah, I've had days like that. You ever just not give a fuck so hard?
It's every day. It's my life.
Honestly, humans have been writing stories about this for centuries. Not to go all English major on us. I don't know why I said it like that, English major. But I'm about to. There's a story called Bartleby the Scrivener. From back when before...
I prefer not to do that.
I would prefer not to. Just before... Back when Wall Street was actually a wall. Somebody wrote this story.
Crispin Glover was great in that movie.
I'm sorry, there's a movie?
There is a movie. I think Michael Showalter directed it. I could be wrong. It stars Crispin Glover as Bartleby. And the whole movie, his only line is, I would prefer not to. And his boss, I think David Paymer plays him, completely loses his mind. And you're looking at me like, who are these people? The dad from Back to the Future. Hey,
Chris, I knew the name Crispin Glover.
He plays Bartleby in the movie.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. And like I said, I think it was Michael Showalter. They might be doing that in a future podcast, but for now, we're in the office.
Yes. Back to Office Space.
Now, what did you think of Bill Lumbergh?
Names.
Have you ever had... yeah, we're going to need you to come in.
Oh, my God.
On Sunday.
That's the scene that I've seen.
Yeah.
That's another
one. The man who needs both belt and suspenders.
I didn't pick up on that.
Oh, yeah. He's a maniac.
Yeah. It reminded me of that episode of Friends where Chandler has to be the boss, and he's like, I'm going to need those reports on my desk by 9 o'clock.
So, if you could just get to that as soon as possible, that would be terrific, okay?
And it was so funny... The critique, because he really wasn't a character. Like, he was barely a character.
No, he's a one note.
Yeah. But at the same time, he was like an everyman character in the heel way.
Yeah.
So it was fascinating to see what the 90s
passive-aggressive shit
version of that was. Yeah. It was just
much.
like, oh, this man is a caricature. So let's look at the way they constructed him. And I think, honestly, it gave me sympathy for all of my, like, family who were in their 20s in the 90s and working in an office, because it's like, oh, when I was a child, I was not aware of this, but you guys were having a bad time. And I get it, because before the pandemic, I was also in an office having a bad time.
Now, what are your feelings on Flair?
I was so on with Jennifer Aniston for that. Her entire speech, and I know because that's another one of the scenes, because when LJ showed that scene to me, I forget why, it was under a completely different context. She was like, you want to know what I think about Flair? What I think about your Flair? I think if you want to set the minimum, then make the minimum what you actually want to see, which I vibe with so hard, because it's like, if you want something, do not ask me for something and then get upset when I don't give you extra. I will happily give you exactly as much as you ask for, but don't get weird when there was some subliminal message that I clearly didn't get. Also, those buttons look heavy as hell.
Oh, yeah.
And
those suspenders weigh like 20 pounds.
I don't know, like, for the people out there who haven't waitressed, I guarantee you they're also the biggest pain in the ass in the world. They probably get caught on absolutely everything. I guarantee she has dipped at least one in something disgusting and had to go wipe it off. I like that they included this because it was on top of, hey, here's sympathy for office workers. They gave a little side to, by the way, if you're in the service industry, we understand that this sucks for you too. All of the management styles are the same. It was what really came through when they did that was it's like we're critiquing the fact that managers are just working from a textbook like we're computers and not talking to us like people.
And always remember, they have bosses too. So they're forced to be that way in that movie. And you know that her boss was Mike Judge.
That's Mike Judge.
Yeah. That's Mike Judge in a really bad wig and a really bad mustache.
I liked her other coworker who was like, Flair! He was so into it. I was like, that is the
Want some jalapeno poppers?
That's SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh, that kid was a nightmare. I I've worked with people like him who are just very happy-go-lucky and just, you just want to knock their teeth out.
So can I get you gentlemen something more to drink? Or maybe something to nibble on? Some pizza shooters, shrimp poppers, or extreme fajitas?
How do you wake up and summon that every day? Without being a teenager. There was a point where I had that energy, but I think I lost it around age 17.
I love the fact that character doesn't even have a name. It's just Tchotchke's waiter.
I also want to say that I called the Tchotchkes thing. I was like, Tchotchkes? What the hell? That sounds like weird, kitschy Hooters. And then 3 scenes later, she's like, yeah, I'm working at Hooters now. I was like,
Well, you know what a tchotchke is, right?
I mean,
it's just bullshit.
Yes,
our shelves are covered in tchotchkes.
It's just like tchotchke
and you go
things.
into any Fridays, any Applebee's, it's just a wall of shit.
But also,
It's why is there a boat oar in my restaurant? I have no idea.
There's something about the word that does indeed sound like it could mean tits.
Tchotchkes. Look at the tchotchkes on her.
You see? It fits
works.
right in.
I may be using that.
No, don't use it that way.
He's got a lot of tchotchkes, that one.
What have I done?
Oh, God. And just the amount of actors in this movie. I mean, for one, Jennifer Aniston just stands out because...
She's Jennifer Aniston.
This was this is during Friends and after Leprechaun, which she loves to make the world forget. She was in that. That was her first movie.
What the hell is Leprechaun?
Actually, no. Mac and Me was her first movie.
Don't know that either.
Oh, Mac and Me, the knockoff of E.T. Oh, you're going to love this one.
Do they make fun of that in Friends? Is that where freaking mac and cheese came from?
I have no idea.
There's an episode where Joey is on a show called Mac and Cheese, and his partner's a robot.
No. This was a McDonald's produced knockoff of E.T.
What the hell?
Yeah, it exists. I've seen it twice. Don't ask why.
What business did McDonald's think that they had?
But to see Jennifer Aniston was in this, Ron Livingston, who had just come off of Swingers, which was a huge, that was the 90s personified.
I feel like I need a tally mark for every time we're in an episode and you mention a movie I haven't seen.
Oh, we're gonna write them down soon. Diedrich Bader was on Drew Carey at the time, which was a huge show for ABC. You don't remember Drew Carey's show? He hosts Price is Right now. Oh my God, you're young. Stephen Root as Milton. Stephen Root, probably one of the most underratedly brilliant character actors in history. He's been, he was on News Radio. He was in Get Out. He was the old man who was getting the surgery done, and he was going to have the main character's brain put in his.
Yes, he was.
That was him. He was also recently in Book of Boba Fett. He's the guy who's selling. He's a water salesman, but this man is a chameleon. He's honestly one of the best character actors. And then you got Gary Cole, who's Bill Lumbergh.
Oh yeah.
There's an impression that I must have heard every day of my life in college. Everybody. Yeah, can you just have that on my desk? You heard about the TPS reports, right? How come you're not putting covers on your TPS reports?
That opening sequence felt like, I don't know what it felt like.
I knew it was going to trigger you.
But I was like, I've been through this. I've been through this 10,000 times. Why have I been through this 10,000 times? Half of it was just being an English major and just having to learn different format headings. Because it's such bullshit. It's can you still read the report?
Yeah.
Can you still...
But
Shut up!
That's what the movie proves, is a lot of the stuff that they force you to do in offices don't really need to be done. It's etiquette.
Yeah.
But the problem is it's going to drive you crazy.
It's interesting. There's a parallel there between getting sick of office etiquette and having to have your office etiquette nitpicked and what we're seeing now where people are like, oh, it's cancel culture. I'm getting canceled for saying this. But it's you're not really being canceled. People are just critiquing your etiquette. Some people are being canceled. We won't get into that. But a lot of the time it's just no, we're just saying that you're kind of acting rude. But then in an office setting, it's so completely different because these are not rules that we learn from birth. These are such specific social rules. And you're thrown into the middle of this really alien world when you're around 20 and they're like, here you go. And you're like, I didn't prep for this. What is this?
Training you to be a drone.
What language are you all speaking?
Yeah. And then they got you in a cubicle. They literally put you in a box.
Oh my God. Cubicles were so depressing. How did people survive like that?
Never.
What the hell?
Never had one. Never had a cubicle in my, I worked in cubicles, fixing, the wiring and stuff. Never had to sit in one because I think I would have lost my mind.
Some of that movie just felt so dystopian, and it reminded me of when I went to Disney World, like right before I started here.
Yeah.
I went on the Carousel of Progress, and I was really, really excited about it because, like, my friend Annie really loves it. She had told me about it a bunch of times. It seemed like a really cool look at, like, American history, and it was, like, really inspiring. And then you got to the 50s, and, like, the Walt character, the Tom Hanks character, whatever, is just sitting on his couch, and he's like, yeah, we have something called the rat race now. Everybody gets in their cars and drives to work, and at the end of the day, we drive home, and this device is called a television. And, it's nothing on there is very good yet, but it's something to watch. And I was just sitting there, and I was like, that's the most depressing fucking thing I've ever heard. Oh, my God. And everything after that felt so dystopian, and that is what watching this movie felt like.
Yeah. I mean, from the opening scene where they're just sitting and seeing all the individuals and how they deal with traffic is one of the... Michael Bolton, best name in movie history. Just this dorky white guy. He's played by David Herman from, I think he was Mad TV. And he's sitting there belting out hardcore rap, saying shit he should not be saying, looking the way he does. And then that one guy, that one black guy selling flowers, walks past the car, he turns the volume down and locks the door. I knew so many dudes like that when I went to college in Long Island. They all thought they were these badass, like, hardcore gangsters, and every one of them would do shit like that. I would bring them to the city, and they just wouldn't know what to do with them. They were, like, afraid of everything.
The choice also to have him selling flowers. Like, he could have been selling anything.
Yeah.
The specific choice to make it flowers was so brilliant. Yeah. It's such a little thing.
And I love the, what's his name? Samir. Samir, the Indian worker.
It got real with him for a minute there.
AJ Nadu, yeah.
When they were actually talking about, like, implementing the virus and everything, he's like, listen, like, I like, this is real for me. I could get, like, I could lose this job and never find another one.
Yeah.
I could get did he say he could get deported, or did he imply it?
I think he implied it.
It was implied. It wasn't outright
And I love
said.
the fact that their plan is literally the plan from Superman 3. That is exactly what Richard Pryor does in that movie. He steals 1/10 of a penny from all of the paychecks, and he shows up at work the next day in a Ferrari. I mean, it's the dumbest movie ever. It's dumb as donkey shit, but it is one of the funniest. The fact that they brought that in.
I love even more that they fucked it up.
Yeah,
like I was
one decimal point was off.
So on brand. I've met that guy. Like, he's an absolute genius, but also just like, oh, of course.
I've only met one actor from this movie, and it was...
no, I haven't actually met the actor, to be clear.
Really?
I've met that model of a person.
The guy who makes the jumps to conclusions, Matt, he played Santa Claus in a movie I worked in, and he came on set, and it was the funniest thing, because he walks in, I'm like, how do I know? Jump to conclusions, Matt guy. And he goes, yeah, that's me. Now I'm Santa.
That guy was Jerry.
He's the sweetest dude in the world.
I was also watching this movie, like, it was Jerry. From Parks and Rec.
Oh,
like,
yes.
just like the shittiest things in the world happened to him, but somehow he still comes out on top. It was insane.
He's in a wheelchair at the end of the movie. And he just gets, like, wrecked by a car because he's about to kill himself.
Regina George
And his
style.
wife catches him. And he's so embarrassed he decides not to kill himself.
I laughed I probably laughed too hard at that.
The movie has so many uncomfortably great moments.
I was not great with his wife's response to that. Like, she just kind of like, oh, you, and then closed the door like, no, you should be concerned.
And I love she closes the door.
She goes, Well, I mean, I guess she's not letting the carbon monoxide into the house. That's a good thing.
Let's see. Where can we go with this now?
What
were some, like, what stuck out in your head? Like, what scene completely, like, just grabbed you?
The entire time I was rooting for Milton to go apeshit. Like, from the beginning. I had no context. Just to remind everybody, I had absolutely no context. I did not think this was going to happen. I thought he was a little one-off side character. But every time his desk was moved, did I ever tell you about the time I was working at, I guess I won't say the company name. I was working at my first job. I was like an intern, but they really should have been paying me for full-time work because by like 2 months in, that's
sure you
what
don't want to dox them?
No, I'm good. I'm not going to start drama. Me and my coworker Yvonne were both working there, and they moved our desks so many times. I think it was 5 times they moved where I was sitting for some new IT guy who was only ever in on like Tuesdays and Thursdays or some shit anyway, so it was just a blank computer. And eventually they literally put us at the tiny round table in the kitchen. They're like, we're going to move you one more time. You're going to sit in the kitchen where we have all the people from Canada come and gossip about, like, buying ads when they're in New York.
Well, at least they didn't move you to the basement and not pay you because they forgot to take him off of payroll. They fired him 5 years ago and didn't take him off of payroll.
At first, I was like, "Oh, okay, good deal for him." But when they were refusing to tell him he was fired, I got so angry. I was expecting them to be assholes in this movie, and I still got so mad. I was like, "I'm gonna punch them. I'm gonna go through the screen and hit someone." So at the end, when he not accidentally starts the fire, as I thought happened at first, when he just goes, "You know what? Fuck it," and leaves Trading Places style, I was cheering.
Well, he does say, "I'll burn this place to the ground." He literally goes, I'm going to burn this place to the ground one day.
And no, it's not okay because if they take my stapler, then I'll set the building on fire.
And then,
I didn't remember that
because he mumbles so damn much. And he damn sure burned that place to the ground.
I cheered. It was beautiful.
It's a great ending.
Beautiful ending.
That and of what happens to Peter. The fact that he takes a job. He's like, I'm a construction worker now. I'm outdoors, get fresh air. Let me tell you something. I was a construction worker. It sucks working outdoors, and it's not fresh air. Especially when you're digging out a burned-out husk of a building.
I will say, though, it was a nice message for something that's, like, actually at the forefront of, like, discussion now, which is like, hey, remember when we told you all to go to college?
Yeah.
We're sorry. That was a mistake. Mm-hmm. Some of you were better fitted for trade schools, and that's why so many of you are miserable. Yeah. We're so sorry.
Yeah. And it's funny. Like, I have a lot of friends growing up who swapped. They were in offices. They became construction workers. And then I was a constructor. I wanted to work in an office. Yep. And it gets to you after a while. Like I think any job you have will eventually drive you a little nuts. It's just a matter of like finding that perspective. But working for Initech is just a nightmare factory. Where there's no hope. There's just no way out, and everyone is a depressed lunatic.
What do they even do? Like, I know
they literally were working on the conversion of making the end of Y2K.
So there were companies that were... Wait, hold on. There were companies that were invented for that?
I'm guessing.
What happened to them after? Now I'm going to go down a rabbit hole. Were there companies invented for helping with whatever the fuck was going to happen with Y2K? And what happened to them afterwards?
Well, that's just it. They probably would have just gone away and fired everybody.
Or burned to the ground.
Exactly. All right, so we've discussed the film. We've discussed what we liked about it. How would you rate this film? We want to come up with like a number system.
Oh yeah, should we do out of 8? Is that?
Yeah, let's do it. It's N stars. We can do 8.
It's N stars. We can do the N stars 8.
Yeah.
No, wait. Let's do 11 because everybody like rates to 11 anyway, right?
This one goes to 11. Do you know the movie that's from?
That sounds really familiar.
Spinal Tap.
Oh, no, I've never seen that.
Wow, you are giving me so many ideas for movies that you're going to watch.
This is going to happen
I'm bringing my DVD library in, that's right. I'm that old. I have DVDs.
To work. I was so upset. I was ready to pop in all the bonus features, and like I went to turn it on. It screamed. I'm gonna ask my dad
antiquated technology.
What could possibly be wrong with it, but if he doesn't know, I'm throwing it out because I think the thing was possessed.
All right, so on a scale of 1 to 11, where would you put Office Space?
I'm giving it a 10.
Giving it okay.
I'll reserve that 11 for things I absolutely went gaga over, will watch over and over again. But this is definitely being added to my rewatch library and things that I will show specific friends. I can't believe I hadn't seen it before, especially foundationally based on the kind of entertainment that I like. I can't believe that I've been obsessed with The Office for as long as I'm from and not watched essentially its parent movie or one of them.
You got to learn your history. That's what this show is all about.
Yes.
This show is all about learning our history.
I so appreciate that.
And so I am very curious what you're going to pull out of your hat for me next week, because I don't even, I'm kind of scared. But in terms of my rating for this film, I obviously love this movie. I grew up watching this in college, and some of the funniest lines in my life came from this film. I got to give it an 11. Mm-hmm. Just because if I own it on DVD, I love it. If a Blu-ray, whatever you want to call it.
I wasn't going to get pedantic about Blu-ray.
When I owned it on 8-track. You know? But, let's discuss what do you have in store for me?
Oh, I have only my favorite movie of all time and my queen, Legally Blonde.
Oh, shit.
Which shocked me.
Greasy Weezy, huh? You want to watch some Reese Witherspoon next week?
Witherspoon.
Reese
We're gonna
Witherspoon.
go to the mothership.
Oh, no. I remember. Now, I've seen bits of that movie in college, but I never sat down and watched it. Usually when the girls would put it on, I would just go, I'm going to go do something and make ramen or whatever. Next week on the show, we are going to watch Legally Blonde. Well, I'm going to watch Legally Blonde. She's going to rewatch it. So hopefully it all goes well. Until next time, this has been Adam Mock
and Melanie Weir,
and Made You Watch a Podcast.
See you soon.
You've been listening to an N-Stars podcast production, and you can't have my stapler. No, I saved the staplers and the staplers for it, and no, you can't have my stapler. No.